Have you ever thought about why big passenger planes keep their fuel inside the wings? At first, it feels a bit strange. It might seem smarter to store fuel inside the fuselage. There's more room there, it's better protected, and the structure is stronger. But in aviation, choices aren't made by guesswork. Everything comes down to careful calculations. And putting fuel in the wings is one of the most intentional decisions engineers make when designing an aircraft. When people explain it, the reasons often sound simple. One common answer is saving space. The fuselage is already filled with passengers, cargo, and equipment, so fuel gets placed in the wings. Another reason is that wings have empty space inside that can be used. Both ideas make sense, and they are partly true, but they don't tell the full story. If space was the only concern, fuel could be placed in many locations, like under the fuselage, near the tail, or split across different tanks. But engineers avoid that because the real issue isn't just where fuel can fit, it's how its location affects the plane during flight. This isn't only about storage. It's about placing tens of tons of weight inside something that flies, and that changes everything. Now the focus isn't space, but how that weight impacts balance, control, and performance. To understand this, we need to look at one of the most important ideas in aviation, the center of gravity. For an aircraft, this is critical. If the center of gravity moves too far forward, the plane needs more force to keep its nose in position. If it moves too far back, the aircraft becomes less stable and reacts more sharply to small changes. In both situations, control becomes harder, fuel efficiency drops, and stability gets worse. That's why engineers carefully plan how every major weight is placed inside the aircraft, and fuel is one of the biggest factors. In both situations, control becomes harder, fuel efficiency drops, and stability gets worse. That's why engineers carefully plan how every major weight is placed inside the aircraft, and fuel is one of the biggest factors. In large airliners, we're dealing with tens of tons of fuel. But here's the important part. Unlike passengers or onboard equipment, fuel doesn't stay the same. It's constantly being used, which means the aircraft's weight distribution is changing the entire time it's in the air. That's the real challenge. So engineers place fuel in a position where burning it has the smallest possible effect on the center of gravity. And that place is the wings. They're located close to where lift is produced and near the aircraft's safe center of gravity range. As fuel is used from the wings, the balance of the aircraft shifts only slightly. Because of that, the plane stays stable, smooth, and efficient during the whole flight, without needing constant adjustments. But that still isn't the full picture. If this was only about the center of gravity, fuel could also be stored in the middle of the fuselage and still work. Yet in real designs, most of the fuel is kept in the wings. From the outside, a wing looks thin, almost like there's nothing inside. But in reality, it's a strong and detailed structure built to carry loads. Inside, there are spars, ribs, and other components that give the wing its strength and shape. And between those parts, there's actually a large amount of empty space. Here's what really matters. That space already exists as part of the wing's structure. It doesn't need extra design or added volume. Now compare that to the fuselage. The fuselage is the most valuable space on the aircraft. It's used for passengers, cargo, and essential systems. Every bit of space there directly affects how much money the flight can make. If that space is used for fuel, you lose room for people or cargo. The wings don't have that problem. That's why aircraft use what's known as a wet wing design. Instead of adding separate fuel tanks, the wing itself acts as the tank. It's sealed and divided into sections, allowing fuel to move smoothly without sudden shifts. This way, engineers can use a large volume of fuel without making the aircraft bigger or reducing its payload. But there's another reason, and this is where the design really shows its brilliance. During flight, the wings handle huge amounts of stress. Lift is spread across the entire wing, pulling it upward. At the same time, most of the aircraft's weight, including the fuselage, passengers, and cargo, is concentrated in the middle, pulling downward. In simple terms, the wing acts like a beam that wants to bend upward. Now picture that wing with no fuel inside. The bending force becomes much greater. The stress at the wing root, which is the most critical part of the structure, increases a lot. Now add fuel into the wings. The fuel spreads along the length of the wing and works like a counterbalance to the lift force. And this changes everything. The wing bends less. The stress on the structure is reduced. Over time, wear and fatigue on the materials also decrease. In simple words, fuel isn't just there to power the engines, it actually helps support the aircraft's structure. To see this in a real example, take one of the most widely used airliners, the Boeing 737. It has 3 main fuel tanks, 2 in the wings and 1 in the center section of the wing box. On short and medium flights, the plane usually runs only on the wing tanks. The center tank is used when extra fuel is needed. And there's an important rule here. If the center tank has fuel, it gets used first. This isn't random. It's controlled by the aircraft's fuel system and its priority settings, not just by pressure. Once the center tank is empty, the system automatically switches to the wing tanks. The reason is simple. Fuel in the center adds more weight closer to the fuselage. So engineers design the system to burn that fuel early and bring the aircraft back to a setup where most of the fuel sits in the wings. Even the order in which fuel is used is carefully planned to keep the aircraft balanced and stable. How aircraft are fueled and what fuel they use. Aircraft are refueled through a special fueling port, usually found under the wing. From there, fuel is pushed through the system, first filling the wing tanks and then, if required, the center tank. The whole process is carefully planned and controlled ahead of time, based on the aircraft's weight, how far it needs to fly, and safety rules. The fuel itself is aviation kerosene. This isn't ordinary fuel, it's a carefully refined mixture with very specific qualities. It has to stay liquid in extremely cold temperatures at high altitude, avoid forming crystals, burn evenly, and keep the engines running smoothly in many different conditions. But just as important as the fuel is the system that manages it. Aircraft fuel systems are built with multiple layers of backup. Each tank has several pumps, alternative feed options are included, and the tanks are designed to lower the risk of fuel vapor ignition. So this isn't just about storing fuel, it's a highly advanced and reliable system. Why aircraft sometimes dump fuel in certain situations, an aircraft may need to release fuel while in the air. At first, this might sound strange. Why get rid of something that keeps the plane flying? The reason comes down to weight limits. Aircraft have 2 important limits, maximum takeoff weight and maximum landing weight, and the landing weight is always lower. If a plane has to return soon after takeoff, it could still be too heavy to land safely. In that situation, there are only 2 choices, either stay in the air and burn off fuel or release some of it. Some aircraft are designed with special fuel dumping systems. Fuel is released through special nozzles, usually located near the wings, where it spreads into very fine droplets and quickly evaporates in the airflow. It's important to know that this is a rare action, only used when truly needed. From an environmental point of view, it's not ideal, but there's an important detail. Fuel dumping happens at high altitude, where the fuel breaks apart and evaporates, making it very unlikely to reach the ground as a liquid. On top of that, these operations are tightly controlled. They take place in approved areas and under strict conditions to reduce environmental impact as much as possible. And this is exactly what makes aviation so interesting. The systems that matter the most are often the ones you don't see. Fuel stored in the wings, weight distribution, structural balance, all of it works quietly behind the scenes, shaping how the aircraft performs in flight. In both situations, control becomes harder, fuel efficiency drops, and stability gets worse. That's why engineers carefully plan how every major weight is placed inside the aircraft, and fuel is one of the biggest factors. In large airliners, we're dealing with tens of tons of fuel. But here's the important part. Unlike passengers or onboard equipment, fuel doesn't stay the same. It's constantly being used, which means the aircraft's weight distribution is changing the entire time it's in the air. That's the real challenge. So engineers place fuel in a position where burning it has the smallest possible effect on the center of gravity. And that place is the wings. They're located close to where lift is produced and near the aircraft's safe center of gravity range. As fuel is used from the wings, the balance of the aircraft shifts only slightly. Because of that, the plane stays stable, smooth, and efficient during the whole flight, without needing constant adjustments. But that still isn't the full picture. If this was only about the center of gravity, fuel could also be stored in the middle of the fuselage and still work. Yet in real designs, most of the fuel is kept in the wings. From the outside, a wing looks thin, almost like there's nothing inside. But in reality, it's a strong and detailed structure built to carry loads. Inside, there are spars, ribs, and other components that give the wing its strength and shape. And between those parts, there's actually a large amount of empty space. But there's another moment where engineering becomes even more noticeable. Not in the air, but right when the aircraft touches the ground. Picture an airplane landing. A huge machine weighing hundreds of tons moves toward the runway. Even then, it's still traveling at very high speed, usually around 250 to 270 kilometers per hour. That's about the speed of a car driving flat out on a highway. Then the aircraft makes contact with the runway on relatively small wheels. If you look at it from the outside, those wheels seem tiny compared to the massive body of the plane. The aircraft carries hundreds of passengers, large amounts of fuel, cargo, and equipment. Altogether, the total weight can reach hundreds of tons. And at touchdown, a large part of that weight is suddenly placed onto the tires. This brings up an obvious question: why don't those tires burst? If a normal car tire hit the road at that speed while carrying that kind of load, it would likely fail right away. But there's another surprising detail. Aircraft tires are not filled with regular air like car tires. So how do they handle such extreme pressure and heat? And what role does the gas inside them play? The answer comes down to two main things: how the tire is built and the conditions it works in. To understand this, we first need to look at what really happens at the exact moment the airplane touches the runway. As the aircraft gets close to the ground, it is still moving forward at high speed. But there's one key detail most people never notice. The wheels aren't spinning before touchdown. While the aircraft is in the air, the wheels hang below and stay almost completely still. The moment the tires hit the runway, something intense happens. In a split second, the wheels have to speed up from zero to match the aircraft's speed. In other words, the plane is already moving at around 250 kilometers per hour, while the tires briefly slide on the runway until they spin fast enough to catch up. That's why you often see small bursts of smoke right after landing. It's not a problem, it's just the result of strong friction between the rubber and the runway. In those first seconds, the tires go through several extreme forces at the same time. The full weight of the aircraft, heavy friction with the runway, sudden acceleration of the wheels, and rapid heat buildup in the rubber. Within moments, the surface temperature of the tire can rise to around 150 to 200 degrees Celsius. For a normal car tire, that kind of stress would cause immediate failure. But aircraft tires are built specifically to handle these conditions. And the reason isn't just the strength of the rubber. Another important factor is how the aircraft's weight is spread out. At first, it might look like planes don't have many wheels. But if you take a closer look, there are actually more than most people expect. A typical medium passenger aircraft usually has between 6 to 12 wheels. Larger airliners often have 14 to 22 wheels, and the biggest aircraft can have even more. There's a very good reason for this. During landing, an aircraft can weigh 300, 400, or even 500 tons. If all that weight rested on just a few wheels, the pressure on each tire would be extremely high. So engineers spread that load across many wheels. There's another detail too. When a plane lands, it doesn't touch down on every wheel at the same time. The main landing gear, located under the wings or near the center of the fuselage, hits the runway first. These wheels carry about 90% of the aircraft's weight during landing. The nose gear, the smaller set of wheels at the front, touches down shortly after and mainly helps with steering and keeping the aircraft stable. This design spreads the forces more evenly and greatly reduces the load on each tire. But even with that, the stress on every tire is still extremely high. That's why aircraft tires are built very differently from car tires. So what are aircraft tires made of? At first look, they may seem similar to regular car tires, but inside, the design is much more advanced. An aircraft tire isn't just solid rubber. It's a layered structure, where each layer has its own job. The outer layer is made from special synthetic rubber that can handle strong pressure, heavy friction, and high heat. But rubber alone isn't enough. Inside the tire, there are several reinforcing layers that greatly increase its strength. One of the most important parts is the nylon cord layers. These are tough fibers arranged in layers that stop the rubber from stretching or tearing under heavy loads. Another key part is reinforcing fibers, which help spread the pressure evenly across the tire. On top of that, aircraft tires include steel belts. These add extra strength and help the tire keep its shape even under massive weight. Because of this multi-layer design, a single aircraft tire can carry tens of tons. At the same time, it stays flexible enough to absorb the shock of landing. Another big reason aircraft tires are so strong is the very high pressure inside them. For comparison, a normal car tire is filled to about 30 to 35 psi. That level keeps the ride smooth and maintains good contact with the road. Aircraft tires, however, work in a completely different range. The pressure inside them can go over 200 psi, which is about 6 times higher than a standard car tire. But this leads to an interesting question. If the pressure is so high, why not just use regular air like in car tires? It might seem like normal air would be fine, since that's what we use every day. But aviation operates under much more extreme conditions. In reality, aircraft tires are almost always filled with nitrogen. This choice isn't random. It's directly connected to the harsh environment aircraft face. During landing, the tires go through strong friction and heat up very quickly. At the same time, planes fly at altitudes around 10 kilometers, where outside temperatures can drop to nearly -50 degrees Celsius. In conditions like these, regular air inside the tire can act unpredictably. That's why engineers selected a gas that performs better under extreme pressure and temperature changes. That gas is nitrogen. There are several reasons for this choice, and all of them are tied to safety and reliability. First, nitrogen has no moisture. Regular air always carries some water vapor. At high altitudes and very low temperatures, that moisture can freeze into ice. Inside an aircraft tire, that's something engineers want to avoid. Using dry nitrogen removes that risk completely. Second, nitrogen contains no oxygen. Oxygen can slowly react with rubber and metal parts, which can speed up wear and damage over time. By removing oxygen, the lifespan of the tire and wheel components is extended. Third, nitrogen pressure stays more stable when temperatures change. During landing, the tires heat up very quickly due to friction.